Hi, welcome to the first edition of this season's Blues Talk. We're again John, Dave, and myself. We're going to preview our World Cup, also look back at the squad that Joe Schmidt has selected, and of course look forward to Leinster's first match in the Pro 12 against Edinburgh. So boys, just first things first, Joe Schmidt selected his squad, was announced today, leaked yesterday.
Yeah.
A couple of surprises, a few winners and losers I think in the group. Tyke Furlong jumps out as one, Darren Cave, bit of a surprise, Trimble not being in.
And only two scrum halves being possibly the biggest shocker of all.
I think Trimble not being in isn't actually a surprise as such. I think that's more of a function of his
Foot.
his health.
Yeah.
I think if he were fit and he were dropped, it might be. But
maybe yeah.
It's same with Marty Moore. The big surprise is the two scrum halves. There's an element of, you take the balance of probabilities where we need a third scrum half. Maybe sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. I mean, I remember Neil Doak went to 2003, I think it was. He was the only player in the squad who never got any game time. So there's an element of that there. It's a strong squad. I'll tell you what it is. How you can tell how strong we are. Look at the squad. Make a team of the guys left behind, and it's a bloody good team.
Yeah,
and that shows the strength that Joe Schmidt has over the last couple of years by maybe through necessity, having to play a lot of guys in the Six Nations last year because of injury, and then some of them been missing this year and having to. So the depth in the squad is there. That means that he can bring a really good squad to the World Cup and have a lot of really good guys left at home.
Well, I think that what took positives out of, say, the match against Wales was it gave someone like Dave Kearney a chance. I mean, there was so much competition for the back three positions, and Dave Kearney, went out and grabbed that opportunity by the scruff of the neck.
Did.
Similarly, I know we'll talk about the match, but Henderson, he's got the try. He did a lot of good things. You mentioned that he did some poor things, which we can discuss, but he was another guy that's kind of might have even done enough to get into the starting 15.
I think another guy it's surprising maybe to say it, but Simon Zebo was a guy who played himself in. I mean, he was a guy who hadn't impressed Joe all that much with not with his ability but with his attitude. But in the game against Wales in the Millennium Stadium, his work rate was extraordinary. If you watch that game, you'd look at the amount of rucks he was at or involved at or creating opportunities around. I think it was once he added work rate and effort to his undoubted physical talents, he was always going to be in with a shout, and that's what he did.
Absolutely, yeah. The two scrum halves thing though, Cheika has two scrum halves and two hookers, and they reckon a lot of it is to do with having two teams, because when you've got an extra hooker and an extra, well, you've always going to have one left over as the 31-man squad. So there's your
That's
extra.
for the props, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is in terms of two teams for training. So you're going to have a scrum half hiding out on the wing, playing in the trial matches, or not the trial, but the practice games where they're trying to rep the other team. So they reckon that Cheika has gone for that lineup or that configuration so as you can have two full teams that can play each other quite a lot and swap guys around. And whereas small point, but maybe that's a factor, and maybe Dave Kearney playing well is a factor in the Andrew Trimble. Maybe they might have taken a gamble on Trimble's fitness.
Well, I think
Kearney not been playing.
I think when you have say,
and maybe they wouldn't have taken a gamble on Cave if Boss had been playing better.
I think they both fit the if you like the big, strong, direct running type winger. They both do the same kind of job, and they both did it very well in not this Six Nations just gone, but the one before that, when we won the championship, they were the starting wingers and were excellent. Mainly by default that they were starting wingers, but they did a great job. But they both do present a similar skill set.
That hit from Trimble that led to the try in the first Wales game, that was phenomenal.
That was a phenomenal tackle,
That's the kind of thing you want.
But like say, Healy was, he's so important to the team that they're always going to bring him if you could hobble and make it to that game against France.
If you've got Healy, O'Connell, Johnny Sexton, Sean O'Brien, they're going to take a risk on those guys.
Yeah, whereas you've got so much strength and depth in the winger's position that just say, if we had if we didn't have a Dave Kearney, if we didn't have a Cave or a Bow or whoever there, and you needed Trimble, I'm sure they would have taken the risk on him. But the fact that he played
Craig Gilroy, who hasn't
but the fact that he played 1.5 games in a year, probably
it's a bit of a risk. But they took a risk on. It really must say that Joe doesn't have much time for Kilcoyne.
Yeah,
They took
yeah.
a risk on Healy,
Mm.
and they didn't risk Bent as well. I reckon there's an odd one. You know, I was sure there was going to be 3 scrum halves, and I was sure that Bent was going to be the 5th prop.
Yeah,
I was sure, and the fact that he wasn't. I must say a little bit about Bent, but also about Dave Kilcoyne. The fact that he's taken an extra tight head rather than with a bit of suspicion over Keane Healy's
I think
fitness.
Kilcoyne has the same problem that Zebo had in terms of work rate.
Work rate, yeah.
I mean, Dave Kilcoyne
And
is
he had dodgy penalty.
he's a fine carrier of the ball. He does all that
Sure
stuff.
is, yeah.
But you know, there's other jobs around the park that need doing, kind of thing. And that's what Joe Smith doesn't look at a guy doing the fancy stuff at all. That's no, it's
It's
doing-
not of no interest.
it's not a noise, but what really turns him on is guys repeating the basics correctly and constantly. That's what really gets him going.
Well, like
You look at the players he picks; they're all of that type always.
Yeah.
it's very New Zealand kind of attitude, isn't it? You know, you must be able to be a rugby player, do your basics
Props
correctly.
have to be able to pass, and backs have to be able to rope,
Yeah.
and all of that.
But like, you know, he mentioned one thing that he mentioned in the press conference was he's talking about Cave selection and going for somebody who was a natural centre rather than a manufactured centre
Yeah.
partnership, where you've kind of got 2 huge big centres, but they were originally, or they learnt their trade as fullbacks, where he
Yeah.
wanted somebody in there who was actually could cover a centre and be a centre.
Cave's a big lad too, you know.
He is.
He looked great when he came on in it was the Wales or the Scotland game, I can't even remember. But it was the Wales game. He did look really well in that. But previously he's kind of gone missing in big games for Ulster, and I'm sure he's got it together, and that's why Joe's picked him. But
He hasn't always consistently performed.
he seems to be a little overawed,
Yeah.
previously in previous seasons he seems to have been a little overawed in really big games. So I'm hoping that nobody gets injured, but B, if he does have to step up, that he's conquered that thing.
It's an interesting
mentally.
one. I think Robbie Henshaw is a guy who played fullback but is now a centre kind of thing. Jared Payne is still a fullback playing centre. But the thing with both of them is they're both such good footballers and they're both so physically imposing. They can kind of get away with it. I think Robbie Henshaw has fully transitioned.
Robbie Henshaw is the Ian Henderson of the backs. Like, he can do it all. He's fast. He's got good hands. He can hit you like a train. He's kind of covers all the bases. And Cave covers some of those bases. He's certainly big and he can hit you.
Well, anyway, we played Wales at the Aviva on Saturday. It was a poor game, I guess, but I was actually, when I was coming out of it, I was going, that was deadly, I don't mind that. Lose, get a kick in the pants for the guys, something to,
bang on. That's
and
what we needed.
there was 0 given away. I mean, where I was sitting, you could look down on the pitch and you could see there wasn't one Irish back within further than 15 metres of the ball at one stage. They were just swarming it, as if like we're not giving you any ideas of what moves we've got in.
You know what that game was? That game was
Yeah.
Leinster versus Munster in the Aviva before the European matches under Joe Smith's reign. It was a big game, get everyone up to speed, but don't actually give anyone anything away.
Yeah.
It was the you could see kind of like Ireland tried nothing. It was very, very basic stuff, and that was exactly how Leinster and indeed Munster themselves, when they were playing us down in Thomond, would approach those games. The contest was more important than actually the way we
Well,
played.
when you look at it, Murray, Sexton, Henshaw, there's an axis that hadn't played a single minute of rugby this season. Carney hasn't played a single minute of rugby.
I think there was 5 starters that hadn't played.
Was it Toner as well? No, Toner had played.
O'Connell.
O'Connell came on, didn't he, in one of the games?
You did, yeah.
But anyway,
There were plenty of
there were plenty of guys who were getting their first hit out, and that was a really important thing to do rather than look fancy. Like, they did a few little Randwick loops and a few little things like that where Sexton ran around it, but nothing at all out of the ordinary.
But those are from like those are a pre-Schmidt playbook stuff.
That's true.
No,
Well, it's
those are really old things.
20 years ago.
And that's the point of it. I mean, we were able to, play the way we played and survive the way we survived against a team as good as Wales without actually doing anything.
Exactly, and
And
it
we
was
could
kind
have
of
pulled it
heartening
out of
that
the fire at
we
the-
could have snuck it
Yeah.
in the last minute.
But I think the referee made a number of decisions that were
For both
questionable at
sides,
best.
in fairness.
Yeah, he made decisions for both sides, but in terms of things like a 5 metre scrum, changing the way that goes, that's a big decision.
when Tipperick stripped the
Yeah,
ball and
I mean that's a big
he gave
thing.
it as a knock on. Yeah.
You know, things like that. And he's very. Joubert's not a referee I enjoy. I generally hesitate to criticise referees, but except for Fitzgibbon. But Joubert's not a referee I enjoy, to be honest with you. He has a very individual take on things. I mean, for example, he was allowing trawling, where you go over with your hands and let the opposition push you back and bring the ball with you. That's specifically forbidden under the laws of the game, and he allows it, and which is ridiculous. And of course, Tipperick had an absolute field day.
Yeah.
He's like a Norwegian cod fisherman.
Absolutely. A couple of the things that he did, a lot of Southern Hemisphere referees don't seem to care about knock-on so much, or forward passes so much. Like, cause I was watching a few
Interferes with the
highlights,
entertainment.
and there was 2 or 3 in a Welsh build-up move. Now it didn't come to anything, but there was 2 or 3 forward passes that were quite obvious that he didn't call at all. Nobody called him. He wasn't, Barnes was level with a few of them, didn't call them. Little things like that, but I think they were as bad, But Wales needed to win that game.
Oh, they had to. They absolutely had to.
And England need to win this game next week, even more. It'd be badish for Ireland if we lose 2 in a row. Like, it's never good to lose at home. But I think we're going to go, to quote Eddie O'Sullivan, full metal jacket at this one, because England definitely are.
Yeah, but do we want to be peaking at this game and then kind of have to take our foot off
I
a
don't
little
think.
bit?
I don't think Lancaster wants to be peaking at this game. I think Lancaster's actually, he himself and within the squad, I'd say they're pretty happy with how things are going. I mean,
They were poor against France.
They were poor against France, but they were brilliant against France the week previous. And because they beat France the week previous, they're not the greatest team in the world. Because they lost to France last week, they're not the greatest team in the world. I was actually in Paris for that first match. I was in Paris for the one in England, typically. And the French were seriously downcast. I mean, they were nearly suicidal as a result of the result. But, they turned it around a week later. And that's the whole thing about it. I think England are okay. But you see, the thing is, England's pressures aren't internal. The pressure on England is all external, because they're the hosts, and there's this whole media thing around them, this whole camp around them. So the pressure, there is a huge amount. They have to win, but not from within themselves. They have to win because of pressure from the outside.
Oh, they'll have the what used to be Fleet Street,
The whopping hordes,
giving it loads now, and bigging them up, and 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup kind of job, and all this. But like they will, and that pressure was going to mount on them for the 6 weeks of the tournament.
Yeah, well, France are starting to look good though, which is worrying for us. And I don't want to get too bogged down in France, because I'm sure we'll be talking about it ad nauseum for the next few weeks. But they are starting to look like a team.
They are. They're a bit dodgy.
We don't want.
Halfback though.
They have a few dodgy selections, but so do England.
Yeah, that's true.
Putting Burgess in there, not sure about.
In the first game, he looked really, really good.
Can't decide if he's a back or a forward.
He looked really good in the first game against France. Yellow card aside. Second game, not so much. But then does anyone really look that good?
No.
I mean, it was a dreadful pitch.
It was
shocking.
It's no wonder. That's why the French Union are moving out of there. I mean, it's
that was in the Aviva Stadium there not so long ago. I mean, it was creasing up like that in a carpet.
Yeah, but they want to try. The difference is the IRFU and the SRU want to fix it. The owners of Stade Francais or of Stade de France are doing nothing about it. I mean, there's been problems with that pitch going back how long?
Well, like obviously the game next weekend is going to be so much more important to England than it is for us, I think. But they've picked a team that have gone out to certainly to try and win this game. Difficult to know what Smith's going to do. He's hardly going to keep guys back in reserve. He's got to get them up to speed.
Yeah, I think
but he's got to keep the squad guys involved as well.
I think the selection on this game is going to go on who needs the game time rather than pretty much anything else. Because there's a 2-week gap, and we've got kind of Canada, and I'd say the way it'll be selected is plenty of game time here for all the frontline players. Select the best team, v Canada, throw in a few spares against Romania, and then balls to the wall for Italy and France, and hopefully the further we go.
I think there's an element of, I mean, if we think back to 2007 when the word undercooked really hit the Irish parlance. I don't think there's any danger of Ireland going into the World Cup undercooked. I think that what Joe Schmidt will do is he'll pick a team to make sure that everyone is bubbling along nicely. He doesn't want them.
Exactly.
He doesn't want anyone undercooked. But he doesn't want to burn the. He doesn't want to burn the soup either.
Sure enough.
So he's gonna pick the team that'll, obviously present a realistic chance of victory. But he'll believe that everyone in his squad, and indeed quite a few who aren't in the squad, would present, if selected, would present us with a reasonable chance of victory. So he'll pick the team that he feels is best, not necessarily to beat England, although beating England is key. It would be nice. But he'll pick the team that is best to deliver a strong, fit, ready and rearing to go Irish squad for the first game of the World Cup.
That's what you got to hope happens, right? But like our first two matches, it's a bit of a conundrum. You've got to go. You got to look at those two matches and say that they're kind of gimmies. I mean, it sounds quite arrogant, but like I was just looking at Paddy Powers. The match against Canada, Ireland are 500 to 1 on to win that game.
What? That's in a 2 hours race.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they probably will win it, but
I would say that Joe will do what we've seen Joe do before. He'll pick half of the first team against Canada. Then against Romania, he'll pick the other half of the first team. And then
fit them in around.
And fit other guys in around. And then against Italy, he'll pick the best 23 guys from the first two games.
Maybe,
There's kind of similarities to say 8 years ago, and I remember reading, I think it was actually O'Sullivan.
Yeah, the 13 got a cheekbone injury in the.
But in O'Sullivan's book, he was mentioning that I can't remember the name of the doctor, Dr.
Liam Hennessy.
Liam Hennessy. O'Sullivan wanted to have extra games, and the IRFU basically said, well, Hennessy had such an influential position within the IRFU. He said, well, we don't need the games. We can actually use the two matches against Georgia and Namibia as to get the guys fit and to give them game time. Well, as a result, O'Sullivan couldn't rest the guys because they played so badly in the first match that they had to win the second one. That the team was just that was one of the contributing factors to, and it also only had two warm-up matches.
Of contributing factors in that one.
I think the way to look back on this is the year we won the double, the Pro 12 and the the AMRA. If you remember the semi-finals in both tournaments, he didn't pick full-strength teams for either. But he picked a lot of guys.
Enough.
He picked enough in one match, and then enough of the rest in another match, so that by the time we came through to the finals of both competitions, the full-strength teams had played.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it'll go again. I think that's what he'll do with the first two. He won't use the first two matches as warm-ups. The warm-ups, we've had enough warm-up games.
That's true.
It's not like 2007 where we had to go like roaming around the south of France looking for one kind of
thing. Get a game,
yeah. We've had the right preparation. The team will be prepared properly this time. And I think what he'll do is he'll just use, like we were talking about, keeping the team bubbling under nicely. Those first two games will be used to start to bring lads to the boil for the games against Italy and France.
You've got to hope so.
Faith, Jason, faith.
Well, now, Dave, you
to quote a great Greek scientist.
He doesn't let us down.
To quote literally a Greek philosopher, George Michael. You've got to have faith. You've got to have faith.
George
I'm not going to touch your body though.
Can you have that right?
Well, it is that balancing act of trying to keep those and trying to keep the squad happy. You just can't play.
And nothing says he can't pick guys who aren't in the squad either. By the way, for this match, if he has guys that maybe aren't quite 100% right, or he wants to give a bit of a rest to, then there's no reason why somebody like Ferg or Isaac Boss or Felix Jones.
I'd be very surprised if that happened.
I'd be surprised, but there's no reason why it couldn't happen. There's no regulation about it. Just to
once the tournament kicks off, nobody outside the 31 is allowed to train with them. Even never mind anything else. So they can train with them now. They can train with them until the tournament starts. But once they check into their hotel, that's it. Checa has a 10-man squad going somewhere. I think he might be playing some of them against America this weekend.
I think they're saying 25 miles exactly from whatever the regulation is.
He has these 10 guys who came to train with the squad.
England sent, I think it was 20 guys down to the last World Cup. Was it? Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because rather than have the guys on a 24-hour flight, they're just on it to drive 25 miles.
Of course it does. If you have the Donald Lunny, put them all up in a hotel on the far side of the world, which, let's face it, the Australian Union are not exactly flush, but there you go. That's why they've only got 10 and not 20.
Yeah.
Just have to pull a few of the Blazers.
Like that would ever happen.
Your freebie is gone, mate.
Yeah, well, Leinster played Moseley at the weekend and didn't give them a freebie, 68-0.
Well, it's
in
good to see.
I
Donnybrook.
think they might have done better against Max Mosley.
Mm.
He might have put up a more strident fight. I know his father would have been better on the right wing anyway. He shoots, he scores.
Oswald.
It was Mosley were dreadful.
Yeah.
They
They look
really
like an
were.
amateur team. What they were. Kind of
Yeah,
semi-
Well,
Kind
that's
of.
the thing. It has to be remembered that they're not a full-time professional team, and their fans were a bit not upset with the result or anything, but they were upset because the previous week they played Ebba Vale, and the perception was that they found out from Ebba Vale fans that that everyone thought that they were a full-time professional team. They're not. They're a semi-pro team, and that should be borne in mind when you take the Leinster performance into account.
and particularly in the second half when you had Ben Teo, Gordon Darcy.
You're bringing on Lions and NRL winners and State of Origin players and all this kind of stuff against
Exactly.
a bunch of,
It's not
against,
exactly.
And you
against
could-
milkmen and plasterers
but-
of the FA
but-
Cup.
but you-
side.
It's not exactly cricket.
But
No.
you could see even the body size and body shapes of some of their players that they
You look at the size
it
of
could
Lose
it
that
could be
bar,
kind
for
of
example.
dangerous, you know.
You should look at you look at even the size of Mick McGrath. Like he's a huge bloke.
He's a unit,
He's a
isn't he?
tank,
Jesus. The way he broke through, it was actually Darcy dropped the ball, and he cleaned it up and just laced through the. I mean, it's just they bounced off, and he reminded me of a Pacific Islander. That's what he was like running through them. He plays that kind of a style too. Give him the ball, and he's just got the line. That's all he wants. No anything else. Must score, try now.
He's a player I actually enjoy watching a lot.
He
so
is, yeah.
because
Yeah,
because of
he's
that
exciting.
attitude.
Yes.
So
But in terms of learning
The
something,
strong fend or the strong handoff and just the general look of him, like
in terms of learning anything from the match,
he's an Irish Pacific Islander. Yeah,
nothing.
Larry Knight and from Mac. No, I sat down before it started and I said, really, we should be putting 70 points on these guys. And
We
if
did.
Fergus hadn't scored it in the corner for one of his kicks, we would have been 70 points. So at least we did that job. We didn't kind of do our usual Leinster, and no matter what the opposition are, just kind of have a little rest in the middle and
Yeah.
take the foot off the gas. At least we kept it going.
so it's a new era.
It is a new era.
O'Connor gone. Clearly, I don't think we've spoken since he was
Yeah.
on the bullet. A new coaching ticket. Leo's been given his full time contract as head coach. Kurt's come back.
Yeah.
Issa's come back. And
Johnny
interesting.
Sexton's come back.
Interesting. I think Johnny's come back. We won't see him for a while though in a blue jersey. But one thing that I've noticed a lot in the last few weeks, the Leinster way has come back into jargon into the Lexian.
Leo's even said it himself.
He has actually. Leo said it, Kurt said it, and Issa said it. And a couple of years ago, there was a 2-pager in the Irish Times about the Leinster way, and even talking about kids' camps down in Gorey and Carlow and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
playing the Leinster way. It seemed to disappear for 2 years under the O'Connor regime,
Sure did.
and it's come back again. And you could even see it, though. I mean,
well, I think
you could see that there was a willingness
I mean, even-
to pass,
even-
support,
even-
and move, as opposed to pass to the kicker to kick it and chase after it.
Well, the thing, like the Leinster Way, is actually is the program of rugby development in
I know
Ireland.
that.
That's what it's called. It's called the Leinster Way. It doesn't actually specify a style of rugby. It specifies.
But it's an
a ski-
attitude.
It specifies a
It's
skills.
esoteric, man. It's in your head.
It
like.
specifies a skills-based approach and maximising your team's attributes. But in terms of the reason people are talking about it is because we have, if you like, an all Leinster coaching team now.
Yeah.
Pretty much, everyone's either played for the province or everybody has played for the
Yeah.
province. Everyone involved.
Every one of them.
And most of them come from the province. The question is, will it be any good or not? We still don't know.
No, but I feel very positive about it.
I'm positive about Leo. I'm
Just-
very, very positive about Leo, just because it's him.
Yeah, the one thing
I don't have any proof for it though. That's the
I
problem.
was saying this to Jason the other night, and he wasn't agreeing with me at all. But I think that Leo is going to put a kind of a Stuart Lancaster vibe into the team.
Yeah, I
in
think so,
that
yeah.
he's going to spark up their attitude.
I agree with you there.
He's going to, whether he can kick on after that, because I think Stuart Lancaster has hit a kind of an impasse.
Plateaued.
He's plateaued, but that's a pretty big plateau that Leo could get up onto just by getting the attitude right and getting getting everybody rolling in the right direction, which
But-
didn't look like they were.
What
last.
I think Leo.
Well, I mean, there was rumoured, there weren't rumours, but there was mumblings coming out of the senior player like Shane Jennings and a few others who were basically saying, "Pull your fingers out because you're not behaving in
Yeah.
the way that we expect of a Leinster rugby player.
Absolutely, and that's the kind of thing that Leo is going to contribute to hugely.
I
think if he gets at the right time, if he gets an extra backs coach,
Yeah.
that's just going to bring in. Not because there's anything wrong with Gervin. Gervin's doing a sterling job with the BNI squad, but and probably will with it.
Well, we kind of saw the value of the BNI Cup the other night, so it is.
Yeah, but okay, the guy is has great potential, but what I'm talking about is new ideas coming in.
But what I think Leo will do,
somebody-
Leo won't do much coaching himself. I don't think he will. I think what Leo will do is what Leo did as a player. What Leo did as a player was
Say the right thing at the right time.
act as a catalyst for those on the pitch with him, and he lifted them up to higher levels. Is it whatever way he captained the team? I mean, as a player, he was a good player. He wasn't a great player.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he's probably the most decorated lock in Irish rugby.
Yeah.
And what he had this ability to make those around him play better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would suggest that what he'll do as a coach is he'll get the rest. He'll head a collegiate coaching staff, if you like. It'll be that style, and he'll lift the other guys around him. I mean, remember, he's not actually that good a coach. We saw it last year.
Well, no, there's a different remit.
Well, no, that's
there's
true.
a different
he's not actually that
remit.
good a forwards coach, and he's coaching to somebody else.
Well, hold on.
Pattern.
Hold on.
That's
I wouldn't.
true.
I think that's. We don't know how good or bad a coach. What we can say is that under Matt O'Connor, he mightn't have been allowed to express himself or to put across what he wanted. Well, like, we don't know how good, bad, or indifferent he is. He certainly knows more about rugby, or he's forgotten more about rugby than we probably know as combined in this room.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that you would say about him is that, say, someone like O'Driscoll would have said he's the best captain he's ever played under.
Yeah.
So therefore, he's...
That's not a very high recommendation, though. Let's face it.
No, absolutely not. Martin Johnson,
And in
Paul
fact,
O'Connell.
it's not a very high recommendation because Leo's not playing anymore.
I'm being sarcastic here.
No, but what it is...
In
What
case
it,
you didn't twig that.
I know I did, but what it did say was that he's a leader.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's what his job is as a head
And that's
coach.
what I think he'll do. I think he'll lead. I think he'll do more leading than coaching. And I think that's fine. I think that's the way it should be. I think that unless you're an extraordinary talented coach yourself, you can't do both jobs. Joe Schmidt was an extraordinarily talented coach. He was able to do both jobs. Was Michael Check able to do both jobs? Not really. He had to get guys in to do those. And he's a very good head coach. He's a very, very good head coach. So I think it'll be more that style than the Joe Schmidt style, which was very, very hands-on. It's hard to know, but we've no evidence to know how this will go at all.
No.
All we have is, and all I have, and I think it'll be successful. I expect Leinster to be successful this season, is because I believe in Leo Cullen.
Well, he's also
It's as simple as that.
he's missing 16, 17 if you count Kirshner to the box of his senior players for the next 2 months, which is a bit of a baptism of fire for the squad. But having a look at the squad that potentially might take the field for the next weekend,
There's plenty of guys
there's
there.
an awful lot of talent, and the amount of, like, we've lost mainly forwards, so the backs are we've got a bit of a block up in the backs because we've got the senior guys like Fergus McFadden still around, but we've also got just an academy full of potential stars, and that'll be the challenge.
I mean,
trying to get all those guys.
The one area of real weakness in
into
the team is and still remains second row,
Mm.
especially with Kane Douglas deciding to take flight during the summer.
Yeah, and there's another guy that, he didn't seem... We couldn't get the best out of him, and he wasn't happy here and bailed off after a year. And now he's back in the Aussie setup.
Yeah.
Straight into
Straight
the
into
it.
Ahead of what's his name, who's going to France this year?
Horrible, is it?
No,
No, he's ahead of. Yeah, I know who you mean.
the starts with a H. Anyway, he was controversially left out, and Kane Douglas was put in, which is Horwell. That's his name.
That's what I said.
I was just sorry. So we didn't get the best out of him, but we do need somebody to replace him. We don't like. There's this. We've got a 6'10" monster of who's going to be missing for a lot of the season. We're now missing a 6'8" monster who never played like a 6'8" monster, didn't often play like a 6'8" monster, but we need somebody like that. We've got, not too many. I think the only person over 6'6" in the squad, well, apart from the two young guys coming in, Byrne and Thornbury, is Tom Dent.
Yeah.
And we lost the young Andrews guy down to Connacht.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Denton will actually come. I think Denton
Marshall.
is going to become maybe not quite, but he's certainly aiming to be this generation's Leo Cullen. He's playing in that kind of way. He plays that kind of tight style that Cullen does. Is he good enough? But is the question. I'm not so sure that he is. I think that's the real weakness in our squad.
Yeah.
Is in the second row.
And we've a big potential weakness coming at scrum half as soon as Owen Redden hangs up his boots.
Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, we got a question in on Twitter actually from Irish underage rugby, and asking about which is better choice for Leinster, Luke McGrath or Isaac Boss, and the very simple answer is both of them.
Yeah, well, they've got to swap duties. Boss will need to be kept fit for Ireland just in case, because there is a big risk being taken by leaving him and Marmion alone. But also, we need to develop somebody because like Boss is 103 and you know Owen Redden is 102 and a half, so we really need to get somebody moving. And if he's not going to get a chance during the World Cup,
McGrath is this going? Like, has McGrath got a little bit of a free ride insofar as
got much of a ride.
Well, okay, but Madigan has been given such abuse. Oh, he should have claimed the jersey against the out half that came in. Can't even remember his name. Godford. But he should have claimed the jersey. He should have been stepping up to the plate. Should have been.
He should have been backed.
But
more.
McGrath, the two guys ahead of him are pushing on. They're in their mid-30s now, coming towards the end of their careers. Yet he hasn't stepped up to the plate and grabbed like say Dave Carney did at the weekend. He hasn't stepped up and said, I'm going to get 15 minutes in the last of a game against Clonettley, but you haven't said I have to pick him next week.
I've always actually been quite happy with how McGrath has played. Other people have problems with his pass. I don't have a problem with his pass. For me, what I like in scrum half is I like a leader, and I see playing.
Yeah, he really has that. Yeah.
I think he's done well in the opportunities he's had. Some would say he hasn't had as many opportunities as he should have done. The other hand, I mean, he's got two Irish internationals in front of him, both of whom at the time were current members of the international squad. So opportunities were always going to be thin on the ground.
Yeah.
I think he has more of a chance this year. I think McGrath has ability. I like what he does. I like his leadership. I think his biggest problem isn't Isaac Boston. It's not Owen Redden. His biggest problem is Nick McCarthy, who I think has got another one who. He's a year behind him, maybe 2 years behind him, but he's another one who looks like he has the complete package.
He's a bit more than that, isn't he?
He doesn't have the hype that McGrath has. The weight of expectation on his shoulders, the same weight that the likes of Brendan Mackin had, the same weight that Dan Levy has.
Yeah.
McGrath has that weight of expectation. McCarthy doesn't. I think he was played for Ireland in the under-20s over the summer, and I think he's a very live candidate. So the problem is it's not so much a question of Boss or McGrath. I think they both bring different things. It's a bit like Boss and Redden. They both bring different skills. I think McGrath is closer to Boss's style than Redden's style.
I'd take a leaf out of Joe Schmidt's book and
try them both.
Well, no,
60-20, 20-60.
Do the old Boss for the hard away matches where you're like this one coming this weekend and McGrath on the bench and McGrath starting and playing most of the following two at home to Welsh opposition. The two weaker Welsh teams in the league. So, yeah, I think in general, like we've just mentioned Mick McGrath and what a big unit of a player he is, Fanning as well. Guys like that who would be great away on a rainy Friday night in Edinburgh.
In Maggotland.
In Maggotland. And then, have guys like Ringrose, Kelleher, all these lads playing in the home games. Because you're going to need. There's so many backs. It's a bit scary how many backs there are. I thought it was
interesting that they used Kelleher on the wing against Ulster. Oh, not Kelleher, Ringrose. It looks like they're trying to find. Is there a way of getting him into the team somehow,
so he can run into the 13th spot when he needs to? Or I
think there might be an element to that because he's seriously impressed over the summer. Thought I was hugely impressed. Out of all the players, himself and Sam Arnold were the two best players.
Very few though for that team, wasn't it?
There was, but there was.
It's disappointing.
He has.
I wouldn't go that far. I thought there were a couple of good guys in that team who looked like they might push through. I thought himself. I thought Sam Arnold. I thought Nick McCarthy. I thought Ross Byrne was excellent. At out half.
He looked very good, and both out halves looked pretty good. But he looked silky on the weekend. He really did some little passes that were. He looks like he has the brain and the pass and the.
Sam Arnold from Ulster, I thought looked like a good player. So they're really turning out centres at the moment. No, I think the players, and he scored. Sam Arnold scored against us up in Ravenhill there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
No, I think
Try.
I think the players are there. I think the question was Boss or McGrath, and I don't think it comes down. I think if you're in a situation where you've got a vast parity between the skills of your scrum halves, or skills in any position, then you're in trouble. What you want is you want a load of really good players. You don't want a first 15 and then a big drop off. I think McGrath's going to seriously push for at least Boss this year. At least.
Oh, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, Boss is slowing down.
No, but I mean, is in terms of he might not only leapfrog Boss, he might start leapfrogging Redden as well.
I'd be very impressed with him if he did that.
Yeah, I think that
Redden is playing very well at the moment. He's
World Cup time always throws
brings
up,
it out
always
of
brings
people.
out the evolution of teams. I always think.
I was watching him. I think was it the Wales away match. He had his wormhole back.
Yeah,
Where he was
just
appearing at
superb.
rucks.
Yeah, the pace he kept it at. Yeah.
I've never seen a scrum half like him for it, and even at his age, he just seems to be there, and like it's like as soon as you take your eye off him, he goes through this little wormhole and arrives at the next ruck. He just, you know, it's his big talent, and it's a lot of what made Leinster so good in our really good years.
Is his
was
pace.
him getting to every breakdown and getting the ball.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, if McGrath can get near him, I will be.
I think he has the
Very
ability to do
pleased.
that. I
It'll
think
be an interesting team selection for our match against Edinburgh on Friday night. I think that they're missing 8 internationals.
Yeah, I was trying to look through to see had they any foreign internationals, and I don't think they do. They
not that would they've a lot of they've foreign players, but not foreign internationals.
not
No,
of
no.
internet. They have Strauss's brother Andres, who they're all
Somehow
fans are always giving
somehow
out.
has been overlooked for the Springbok team, and the Irish team. There's been
The
a brother
Scottish
tied
team.
you to a passport. No, I think we'll pick a fairly experienced, sizable team,
That's
physically
what I'd be looking
sizable.
for: experienced and brutal.
The weakness is, ironically, now that everybody bloody prop has been taken off us, is that we're a bit inexperienced in the front row.
We don't have any depth left.
No.
We've lost 2 full front rows, a whole back row,
And
You
one
know,
of the Burns is injured.
2
isn't he?
tens.
Yeah, Ed Byrne is injured.
Ed Byrne is out for a good while.
Yeah.
It says.
Brian Byrne is okay. We've got Royce Burke Flynn, Jamie Hagan, that Ian Hurst chap, and Michael Bent.
And Dooley, I'd say, would be ahead
And
of
Peter
Hurst.
Doolan.
Dooley's a great player.
I think he's very good. I think he's a good prospect, all right. The question is, are you going to go with him and Bent as your front row? Personally, I would.
You go with him and Bent as loose heads, and then maybe Hagan and Burke Flynn. But again, the good thing about Bent is you have the option of having him on the tight
But
end
I'm
side.
talking about starting. I would start Dooley and Bent, to be honest
Would
with you. Yeah.
And then would you have 2 tight heads on the bench and one of them swaps
Hagan
across?
is swapping across these days, apparently. He's
You could bring him
doing
on
his thing
at 17.
on both loose and tight head side.
He'll be doing his thing 10,000 miles away now, pretty soon. Down in Melbourne, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mm.
So, second row we discussed. I mean, back row would be an area of strength for us, I
Maloney
think.
is going to come on
Yeah.
leaps and bounds. He's a great player in the second row.
Always impressed. Anytime he's got an opportunity, he came on. If you remember him, he came on after 5 minutes in the British and Irish Cup final 2 years ago, and absolutely tore the place up.
Yeah.
He's a significant player, all right.
There's another lad that looked really good on Friday was Timmins.
Always looks good.
He's a very good player. Surprised me now. I wasn't.
Well, this really is their opportunity now. They have
Paddy
6 to
Timmins
8
is the
weeks.
player who does all the dirty work.
These lads,
And
have
never
six,
gets any credit
they've
for
got 6 to 8 weeks to come through, and you know there's a lot of guys coming to the end of their career, whether it's this season or next season. There's an opportunity here, and they've really got to grab it with both
But
hands.
the problem, say, for Paddy Timmins is that he's in a position that he's naturally a 6. And that's Kevin McLaughlin, who's the club captain for the duration.
He's playing 8 the other night though.
He was, but I think it'll be McLaughlin, I think it'll be Conan, I think it'll be
Well,
Van der Flyer, or it could be Ryan as well.
if
I
he's
forgot
any
him earlier
sense,
today.
if he's any sense, he'll be going for the 8th spot because you know we have a bit. We've more 6s than
Oh yeah.
you could shake a big stick at. You know, everybody is a 6 in the squad. Everybody can play 6 in the squad. There's about 8 players in the squad that can play 6.
I think
When's
he might.
Ruddock
There's
back?
very few. I'm not sure about Ruddock.
He was mentioned in dispatches that he's not far away, but he's not there yet. He was Waterboy the other day, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a bit of a queue from Timmins' generation at number 8, because by the time they come through, they'll be hoping that Jamie Heaslip will be looking to go abroad for his last year or two, kind of thing, and there might be a slot there.
He's
before
another
they're-
2 seasons
Yeah.
before
So-
his contract's up.
So those guys will be hoping to come out of the academy just at the right time.
But like even now, there isn't like Jordy Murphy is the second number 8. Who if Jordy Murphy and the two of them are away and
Yeah.
he's away, who's starting at 8?
Jack Conan.
Jack Conan. There's no one else. I mean, there's not really anyone else that you.
Is Dan Levy not a number 8
He's a 6 or a 7. I think.
by trade? Does he not claim to be a number 8 who's unfortunate
I thought he
by
was-
being brilliant at number 7?
I thought he was primarily a 7.
I thought he was primarily a 7, but apparently he's a number 8. But
Really?
then they all claim to be number 8. Sean O'Brien claims to be a number 8, for God's sake.
He claims that it was his least favourite position the last time I heard.
You know,
But-
I think he says whatever to get him into the team. But
Not
yeah,
as
so
much fear of him not being in any team.
in terms of the Edinburgh selection, I can see them going with McLaughlin, Conan, and one of Van der Fleur, Levy, and Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's an opportunity though, isn't it? At this stage of the season, you know, like these points are still worth the same as they are when all
Of
the
course.
internationals are there. And it's what kind of was our downfall last season was
Yeah.
just.
But see, if you rack up the points now, it gives you a nice cushion.
Yeah.
You know.
And we've got a serious set of fixtures coming from the minute the World Cup is over
Yeah.
until January.
Yeah,
We
and
are flat out.
that kind of was leading me on to, since against the last time that we spoke, we didn't know the European draw. Now we've got Wasps, Bath, Toulon. Like, that's not an easy draw. All previous winners of the competition,
Yeah.
Like ourselves.
like ourselves. Played Bath, of course, last year. Drew with them over there, beat them in Dublin.
Other way around, no, it was Wasps.
Wasps, sorry. Narrow victory over Bath in the quarterfinals, and Toulon we had narrow defeat against in the semi.
Yeah.
So we've played them all recently.
I don't see any reason to be afraid of them, to be honest with you. They're great teams. I see a lot of reasons to respect them. I don't see any reason to. I mean, last year we didn't have Johnny Sexton.
Big.
That's a huge.
difference.
He's the best out half in the world. I mean, it makes a huge difference. Last year, people had varying different things in it, but most people are of the opinion that Matt O'Connor was the cause of everything that went wrong in Ireland, including the recession.
Only most of it in my book.
But he's gone
Yeah.
as well. So if you've got no Matt O'Connor and you have Johnny Sexton and you have Easton Nathiwa and you have those younger players,
You have a new coaching
Coming
ticket
through.
as well, though.
well, that's the question. That's the unknown.
You have players who are going to have been playing with Ireland for the last 6 or 8 weeks. They could be fatigued. They could be injured.
Well, I think
So
we
it's
should.
not just it's not just a cover all to say, oh well, look at all these guys are coming in and we got rid of our crap coach.
They should be well. By the time they get to Toulon, they should be well
You should be well rested.
bedded in
Yeah.
if they don't all get
I
injured.
also think that we should have burnt off the away Toulon match as our first match. We should have just given them that one as their opening.
Maybe-
tried to negotiate it.
Maybe the
I would-
TV deal maybe the TV wanted that.
Well, possibly because I would hope that.
Because there's not many fixtures that are going to have 45,000 at any fixture.
Well,
throughout
I would
this year.
hope that the away match. I would hope that none of our players are available for it because they'll all be celebrating a World Cup win. I mean, it could happen.
Well, the potential World Cup win would be for the Wasps match, not Toulon.
No, what I'm saying is,
Sorry, if
yeah,
they
yeah,
got a chance.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. They should have. I think they should have. That's the hardest away fixture. I think they should have just thrown it out with the trash, as it were.
Well,
Um,
they're also keeping it in their home
In
ground,
Toulon, yeah,
which is
yeah.
only 15,000 punters, you know.
Mhm.
So they're not looking to make money out of it; they're looking to win it.
Yeah.
You know, they're
I mean, I have great respect for them for all those teams, but I don't fear them at all. I think we've a stronger team than we've
you
had.
go ahead and play them then, Dave.
I think we've a stronger team than we've had in many a year. I really, really do. I think that
Bar second row.
bar second row, but I think we have.
We may
have-
get a signing.
Why
there.
don't we? The World
We
Cup.
may get a
We
signing.
may get a signing there because the World Cup squads have been announced. We know who's
Yeah.
off in a huff,
Yeah.
who's available. There's a lot of good players who are available.
And there's a lot of some teams have come in, like the All Blacks have only named 3 second rows, so there's got to be a few disgruntled ones over there. South Africans, they have second rows coming out of out of the woodwork.
You hope Mick Dawson is
On the phone to Ollie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not so downcast about our group. I mean, if we want to win it, we have to beat all these teams anyway, or beat the teams that beat those teams. So, you know, nothing ventured, nothing
I will
gained.
be happy if we get into the top 4 in the league and acquit ourselves well in our group, win on our home games in the Champions Cup. That'll be me happy. Anything from there on
Yeah.
is a bonus.
Winning home games is only going to give you an away quarter final.
But still, the group we're in, I think that would be impressive. In fairness,
I mean, in fairness,
in
if
the
you've
state
gotten
of
away
turmoil
quarter
that we're
final,
in.
if we
Which
get out of our
we-
group and we get an away quarter final, we don't have to go to Wasps, we don't have to go to Bath, and we don't have to go to Toulon. So
But Wasps over in
Might have to
Coventry.
go to Dillon.
Wasps Coventry in Coventry last January, we threw it away.
yeah,
We were 20-0 up, was it?
Yeah,
You know, Kane Douglas got sin bent.
yeah, we could. I mean, none of those teams were able to beat us in 80 minutes last year, home or away. So, if you want to look at it that way,
okay, we'll look at it that way.
you have to take a positive spin. I mean, it's easy to be negative, especially after the last year we've had. It's been a hard year, but you know, whilst I'm not necessarily convinced by the credentials, the coaching credentials of our coaching team, I am convinced by their status and by the people that they are, by Leo Cullen himself, by Gervin Dempsey. We know I'm convinced by Kurt McQuilkin's coaching credentials.
Absolutely,
How
yeah.
could you not be? I mean, I said it before. Do you remember we interviewed Leo Cullen before when we were doing Blood, Sweat and Beers before the semi-final against Munster, and he was really he wasn't cocky or anything like that, but he was quietly confident. There was a quiet confidence, kind of like an aura about it, and like I was convinced after talking to him and talking to Czech. I remember we met them that one night, and he has that ability. He has that aura of control about him, and I think he'll bring that to the Leinster coaching team, and I think that will make a big difference. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
We got another question actually, seeing as we're talking about the internet. We got another question from James Murphy, who wants to know which young guns are you expecting to impress for Leinster during the World Cup period.
Well, the two obvious ones are going to be Kelleher and Ringrose. I said it earlier. How are we going to fit them all in? Like, we've got the amount of centres alone. We've 7 guys in the academy or something to play centre, as we were saying last year. We've got Adam Byrne. Ross Byrne we've already mentioned, who's kind of behind Marsh, but for how long? It's a bit like Furlong and Moore. Furlong was behind Marty Moore, but for how long? Outside of them, we've got guys like Tom Daly, who's a very good player.
And isn't mentioned, and Tom Farrell as well.
And
Neither
Tom
of them
Farrell,
are mentioned in dispatches.
Both who played
But
together for Lansdowne.
Isn't it a shame, like, you know, you mentioned O'Connor a few minutes ago. Isn't it a shame that he brought through so few of those guys?
That is big. Like a Leicester fan said it to me the minute we signed him. He said, "Don't expect him to do any development of your, underage players, or that's not his gig at all." And it's probably his biggest, the thing I'm most pissed off at him about. And the Madigan thing, not backing Madigan a little bit. Like, if I was Nusafora or whoever at the time, I would have been leaning on him to pick Madigan a bit more. Goppert's good enough.
He's gone.
He was a loyal servant
I
when he
don't
was
know how
here,
much money
but he's gone.
I don't know how much money we paid Goppett, but let's say it was, it was a 6-figure amount, and he's gone now. That money is gone. There's no benefit of return from that investment that Leinster or the Irish or the IRFU put into Gottfried. It's gone. He's gone. He's put it in his bank account. He's gonna retire to New Zealand with it.
Well, when that Leicester fan said that to me at the time, I was of course going, we didn't do much for you
Sour
guys,
grapes.
but we'll the players we have will. Unfortunately, I should have listened to him, but the only people he developed were forwards, and with hindsight,
Who were all gone to the World Cup.
But that was out of
with
necessity.
hindsight, who was the forwards coach?
John
Uh,
Gibbs.
No, he wasn't. No, under Matt O'Connor, he wasn't.
He was the first year.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you're right. Excuse me. But, like, John O'Gibbs and Leo Cullen. But he didn't bring through any academy backs, and our academy was teeming with, and still is.
I think a lot of Leinster fans have kind of a learning disability. They don't see numbers 1 through 8. I mean, we're talking about who's going to be the breakthrough player over this World Cup period. The breakthrough players are going to be forwards. It's going to be Brian Byrne. It's going to be Peter Dooley. It's going to be, like we were saying, Patrick Timmins. They're going to be breakthrough stars. The guys who've gone to the World Cup, Jordy Murphy was a breakthrough player, Marty Moore, Jack McGrath. They're all guys who came through under the end of the Schmidt regime, beginning of the O'Connor regime. There is development of players coming through. If you look at the player...
But it's the backs that we have. Like, we're stuffed with backs.
We're stuffed with forwards as well. And that's the thing. I mean, you need both things to work together.
Of course.
the problem with O'Connor wasn't that he was bringing through not enough players, so he was maybe bringing through too many forwards and not enough backs.
Well,
but
he was a backs coach.
Well, here's the thing.
Who did
He persisted with a scrum half and boss that had more off days than good days. He persisted with a foreign out half. He brought in a guy that hadn't played rugby union in I don't know many years. Since he was
probably the best thing.
Oh yeah, he was.
did
No,
in
he,
the backs.
I agree with you. He did play well, but still at the still a bed blocker for an in-house kid that's coming through the ranks. And then like he had opportunities, but stuck with all the household names of the
Yeah.
McFaddens, the Luke Fitzgeralds, the Carneys, and so on. They were there, but they were also away in
And
Irish duty.
when they were away in Irish duty, he whinged about them publicly, which was a bit of a mistake.
Yeah.
In fairness.
And-
No, I agree. I mean, even when he had an opportunity to bring through those guys, he signed another foreign player to block all those young backs in Eastern Sea. Well,
Well, he brought in the Aussie
Not a
guy. He brought in the
popular
Aussie guy, the Aussie winger, the guy from rugby
Lodge
league.
Kiri, that was a fucking
Lodge
disaster. All right.
Although, and then he brought
Kiri
in,
finished that season with an NRL medal in his pocket.
he did, but
Yeah.
but he also played. I think up to a point in the season last year, maybe up to Christmas, the guy with the most minutes playing for Leinster was Furlong, wasn't it? Sorry, the winger, Fanning.
Oh, Fanning. No, he's the most tries.
Well, he had the most minutes up to
Did he?
Christmas,
Oh,
I think,
to
yeah.
Christmas, okay.
And rather than bringing
That's right,
bringing through somebody like Ringrose, who is going to have a future, that's going to have a 10-year career here, instead of just getting pissed off, I can't get into the team. There's all these guys who I feel are who I'm better than. I'm not getting selected. I'm off to France, England, or down south.
Mm-hmm. But as I said, I keep coming back to it. That was his worst feature, was the fact that he didn't bring through. And as a backs coach, you would have thought he'd bring through more backs, and everybody who came through was a forward. So we'll see. Hopefully, that's one of the things that will change. And,
But in terms of the original question, in terms of who's going to be the standout guy, I think it's going to be Brian Byrne. He's going to be the standout young player coming through.
He's already
the World
had a
Cup
good
period.
season.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the guy. Problem is that there are two cracking players in front of him.
Yeah.
In terms of
After the World Cup.
so
Strauss and Cronin.
he's got some significant problem there. I think that this could be the period when Dan Levy comes through as well. We've been talking about him now for a long time, and
He's had his injury worries.
Yeah. He's still only young. Like Jordan Coughlin, of course, has gone down to Munster.
Yeah. And looks like he's going to be a 7. He's
Well,
6'5" or something.
He started out as he was always a groundhog 7 for a big guy with Leinster, and then they kind of moved him to 8, and then he moved him into
8,
the centre, and then they
6.
moved him back to 8, and then 6. But
That experiment
7,
just never worked,
yeah,
did it?
7 was his. I think there was a school of thought somewhere in rugby that thinks we need a big inside centre. Ireland, not just Leinster, but Ireland. There's a lot of guys been tried there. Dennis Hurley down in Munster, obviously. Robbie Henshaw, Jordan.
We've got McCluskey now coming
McCluskey
through.
up in Ulster.
But that was traditionally always the way it was. You always had
Yeah.
your big guy at number 12.
But Ireland went
Crash
the other
ball
way. Ireland
centre.
went the other way for a long time, but
Well,
because we had the
We
smaller
had, that's
guys.
what we had, like.
But they were the model, if you like, for the
But
others.
like, if you go back to 20 years ago, I mean, you had Danaher in there, he was a tank,
yeah. Ireland's best back move, Skip Danaher.
Or Kevin Maggs up, I think Kevin Maggs
Yeah.
played
The
probably.
blunderbuss.
He played, whatever,
what's his name
I think
used to call
O'Driscoll played a quarter of his caps with him
Yeah.
at 12.
He was always a great. Mags was always underrated though as a footballer. I thought he was a nice footballer. He had very nice hands.
He did.
But
he finished off as a bit of a scattergun for Ulster, and
yeah,
he used to just be teed up to run at somebody. And
he was a bit like a smaller version of Nick Williams. But I think Brian Byrne is going to be the one that's going to be the star over the Rugby World Cup period.
Well, I'm hoping it'll be Ringrose, but I'm not sure that he'll get enough. With all the backs we have, I'm not sure he'll get enough exposure. So yeah, you could well be right that it'll be a forward.
There is going to be a significant issue that one of Leo's stoutest tasks will be how is he going to keep all the forwards happy
When the other ones come back from the World
when everyone
Cup.
comes back. I mean,
But this year is going to be such a strange year. Like, they're
Yeah.
going to be away for such vast periods of the year. Like, the first 6 or 8 weeks, they're probably going to be given time off after the World Cup. then you're going to go into camp again just after Christmas and be away for
I think they'll be
2
back
or
for
3
6
months.
weeks at most between World Cup and Six Nations.
There's very few. There's no real breaks between the World Cup and the Six Nations. We're nearly flat out every week, and the last week, I think, is the week before the Six Nations, and we're going week. You know, there's no. There used to be a little break for. Obviously, there'd be a break for the autumn internationals, but the season usually goes in like 10 games break, 9 games break.
It was always in nicely manageable
Six
chunks.
Nations. Now it's 16 games, 16 weeks in a row, something like that.
I remember Joe Schmidt used to talk about how he used to break because there was a natural flow to the season, and it was in 10-week chunks, and he used to be able to plan. All he had to do was plan for the next 10 weeks, and then he could start planning for the next. But this year, because of the World Cup, it's a solid kind of.
Both the French Championship and the English Championship are in much worse state. Like England are stopped playing. The Premiership has stopped playing during the World Cup for obvious reasons, and the French are trying to crowbar in stuff all over the place.
The Pro 12 have kind of done it oddly. We start off with 2 weeks, then I think there's a 2-week break, then back for 1 week, then a break, and then kind of into the season. Then is going to be obviously the break for the European Cup games.
I think the Pro 12 has a slightly different problem, or slightly different animus than the top 14 and the Premiership, in that 3 of the 4 participating countries, the teams are union owned. So obviously the unions are taking part in the World Cup. So they, whilst the Welsh might have their own kind of whatever.
It's kind of designed with the national team in mind.
It's designed with their national teams in mind. So whereas the top 14 and the Aviva Premiership have different motivations. So that's why I think that the Pro 12 is so disjointed at this part of the season, and then just goes like a train for the rest of it.
It's also one of the reasons why the Welsh are always given out, because they're the oddballs out, and they're not controlled by their union. Anyway, let's not open that can of worms.
That's a story for a debate for another day.
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's going to be a good game against Edinburgh, I think. It'll be nice to see the boys back together again playing serious rugby.
Even if it's only on telly.
It's in Boroughmuir's ground.
Megaland. Which I think is a better move for Edinburgh. We said it. They did it last year for a couple of games. And I think it's better for them if they can get the facilities up to scratch. Maybe get 5,000. All they need is 5,000 for Pro 12 matches. That's all they need. If they can get a good 5,000 seater ground for Pro 12.
I played in that ground, and when I played in it, there was a big stand on one side of the pitch, but there was nothing on the other 3 sides, and maybe they'd put something.
That was a World Cup game, though, wasn't it? There was a World Cup game in '99, Jason.
No, it was a bit before '99.
It might have been Tiddlywinks World Cup. No, they put in stands around, or temporary stands last year, so they did, and it's very compact. Might suit them better. Although Edinburgh are a team that likes to play a more expansive game, so maybe there's swings around about there. But Murrayfield can't have been helping them. I don't care what you say. There's no way playing there was a benefit to them.
One Leinster fan complained at the late change in venue and was given a pair of free tickets by Edinburgh Rugby, which was
probably
nice.
not short of them.
Doubling the attendance.
It'll be an interesting game. Edinburgh aren't as struck by withdrawals as we are, but then they aren't as good as we are.
They've 8 call-ups for the Scottish team.
They've a lot of workman-like players. They've a lot of Alan Solomons has brought in a lot of kind of South African
good Curry Cup guys.
Curry Cup guys, exactly. Guys who, always take their curry in a cup. and
it might actually see out a contract.
You never know. They mightn't have any option but to see out their contract. But they're good, solid kind of players, but nothing spectacular. So that's why I think we should be putting out the heavy hitters against them, because they're kind of big, tough guys, but maybe not as skillful. So we need some big, tough guys to knock 7 bells out of them.
Who are skillful.
If you open it up for a few ones who are skillful.
I mean, you have some big, tough guys, and you put a few blades in there as well.
Yeah.
Just to go through the holes.
Well, you've got Easton Azewa. There's a man who
the
can go through holes.
blades.
I saw him make a tackle. On the touchline, and I just thought, God,
he's back.
He is back.
He absolutely clattered him.
He did.
He really did.
He didn't move another inch.
No.
He didn't just stop him on the game line. he sent him backwards into touch as well.
And see, that's
and he was the last up. You know, there was no one behind. If he'd have got past him, he'd scored.
We were talking about having Johnny back, having Issa back. If he's in condition,
Yeah.
huge,
And he looks like he is.
huge.
He's bulked up.
Yeah, I mean he's a huge bone. Issa Nasiwa, I think, is the best. And I
How long is he here for? Is it 1 season, 2 seasons? We don't know.
They say it's 2, but
Yeah. I mean, he's the best foreign player who I think has ever played in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been some good ones, and there've been some bad ones, but there have been some good ones. But
Yeah.
I think he's the best of the best.
yeah, his lookalike down in Munster.
Yeah, Dougie
he used to
Howlett
have
was
the same haircut.
Dougie Howlett was
Yeah.
a great player for Munster. Everybody talks about John Langford.
Mm-hmm.
You
There've
know,
been a good few.
there's been a lot of good players. Room Pinar up in Ulster's been fantastic for Ulster. I mean, nobody could ever accuse him of shirking. But I think Issa's been the best of the best. I think he's.
Well,
We are a little
his stay here has just coincided with Leinster just winning everything for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. But he's been
Not a
brilliant.
coincidence.
Yeah, he's been brilliant in all those games. You look at how many tries start off with Issa going through a gap. You know.
Well, let's hope he can replicate it for the 2 years he's here. But anyway, boys, thanks very much for the first episode. Thanks a million for watching. If you want to get in touch with us, use our Twitter page, which Dave will put up on the...
Yeah, at Blues Talk TV, you'll see a little ticker on the...
Hopefully.
Okay, cheers. Thanks very much.